You've definitely heard about GPT, you've seen those mind-blowing AI images, and you know that artificial intelligence is changing, well, pretty much everything. But there's a huge secret hiding just behind this revolution, a secret about how we're going to power the next wave of AI. And it involves looking at a technology inspired by the most complex object in the known universe, the human brain. So let's dive in and uncover the future of computing.
All right, so our journey here, it doesn't start with a solution. It actually starts with a massive, looming problem, one that could honestly stop this whole AI boom dead in its tracks.
You see, today's AI models, especially those gigantic language models we're all playing with, are unbelievably powerful. But all that power, it comes at a pretty steep cost. They consume just staggering amounts of energy. And that appetite is growing exponentially with every single new version.
Now, this isn't some far-off theoretical issue. We are hurtling towards what experts are calling the AI scaling wall. It's the physical limit, the point where just building bigger data centers and throwing more electricity at our models just isn't going to work anymore. It becomes economically and industrially impossible. The clock is seriously ticking on our current approach to AI.
So what do? If we can't just keep building bigger, more power-hungry machines, what's the alternative? How do we get smarter about this, not just bigger?
Well, the answer might be to build a completely different kind of computer. I mean, a radically new machine. One that doesn't just calculate things faster, but actually thinks in a different way, by taking its cues from the most efficient and powerful computer we know of, our own brain.
And this slide really gets to the heart of the shift. Okay, think of a conventional computer like a chef, but this chef has to run all the way to a pantry in another room for every single ingredient. It creates this constant data traffic jam. Now, a neuromorphic computer, that's like a chef who has every single ingredient right there at their station. Memory and processing are woven together, totally eliminating that bottleneck and saving a massive amount of energy in the process. Okay, so how does this brain-inspired computer actually pull this off? Well, it all comes down to a totally different way of communicating. It's not about shouting all the time, it's about speaking only when you have something really important to say. This is all done through something called spiking neural networks, or SNNs for short. Now, unlike today's AI, which is basically a constant noisy chatter of data going back and forth, SNNs are event-driven. They're quiet. A neuron only sends out a single, clean signal, what they call a spike, when it's gathered enough information to actually have something to say. And this is just incredibly efficient. Let's break that down real quick. So a neuromorphic neuron is always listening, right? It's gathering signals from all the other neurons connected to it. As it does this, its internal energy, its membrane potential, starts to build up. And once that potential hits a very specific threshold, bam, it fires off a single, clean, super energy-efficient spike to its neighbors. And then it just goes quiet again. It's simple, it's elegant, and it's incredibly powerful.
Now, this is all a pretty new frontier, which means there isn't just one single way to build a brain, right? Right now, there's a kind of race going on between two very different philosophies, and both of them are aiming for the same ultimate prize, what we call artificial general intelligence, or AGI.
So on one side, you've got teams like Intel with their Loihi chip. Their focus is all on digital efficiency. They're building practical, powerful chips that we can use right now for stuff like AI on your phone or in your car. Then on the other side, you have these projects like BrainScaleS over in Europe. Their goal is what's called biofidelity. They're building analog systems that physically act like real neurons, all to understand the deep, fundamental principles of how the brain actually computes. So one path is about immediate implementation. The other is about long-term inspiration. And you know what? We probably need both. So, okay, we've got a new architecture, a new way of communicating. But what does that actually get us? What's the payoff? This is where it gets really, really exciting, because this new approach unlocks abilities that traditional AI has always struggled with.
First off, the efficiency numbers are they're staggering. Look at this chart. This is from research on systems using these advanced materials called memristors. On certain learning tasks, they showed energy consumption that was around 100 times lower than a conventional GPU. I mean, think about that. Not 10% better, not 50% better, 100 times more efficient. That's a game changer.
And hey, this isn't just happening in a lab. Intel's Loihi 2 chip, when it was tasked with running a language model, delivered up to 3 times the throughput while using half the energy of a standard GPU on the edge. So it's faster and it's more efficient. That's the holy grail.
But look, it's not just about efficiency. It's about fundamentally new capabilities. Imagine an AI that doesn't need to be taken offline for weeks for massive retraining, but can just learn continually throughout its entire life.
Or an AI that can learn from seeing something just one time, not millions of times. One that processes information in real time as events unfold and is way more robust when the data is messy or incomplete. You know, just like us.
And this isn't science fiction. It's already happening. Researchers working with a chip called Akita actually demonstrated this incredible one-shot learning. The chip was shown a new person's face and voice just once, and from that single exposure, it could recognize them from then on. That is a massive, massive leap beyond traditional AI.
Now, as exciting as all this is, neuromorphic computing probably won't replace everything overnight. The road ahead, it still has some major challenges, and the most likely future is one where the old and the new actually learn to work together.
Let's be real. This stuff is hard. Right now, just programming these systems is incredibly complex. There aren't even agreed-upon standards or benchmarks to measure progress between different chips. And maybe the biggest hurdle of all is what's called the plasticity gap. See, we're getting pretty good at mimicking how brain connections get stronger or weaker, but we haven't yet replicated the brain's incredible ability to physically rewire itself as it learns.
So because of all of these challenges, the consensus is pretty clear. The future is going to be a hybrid. We'll likely see systems that use the brute force power of deep learning for things like massive pattern recognition, but then combine it with the lightning-fast, ultra-efficient adaptability of neuromorphic chips for making decisions in real time. It's really about getting the best of both worlds.
This quote really just nails the ultimate goal. Reaching true general intelligence, it isn't just about processing information more efficiently. It's about building machines that can fundamentally reshape their own internal structure as they learn. That ability to physically adapt and rewire on the fly, that's the final frontier.
So, as we look to the future, we're really left with this fascinating question. Is the path forward just through bigger and bigger data centers, a strategy of pure scale and brute force? Or is the true breakthrough going to come from these new, brain-inspired computers that are not just more powerful, but are efficient, adaptive, and can genuinely truly learn and change their own minds?